Personal improvement, good habits, and great excuses. Building sustainable habits reveals the gap between your January optimism and your February reality. Everyone starts the year with ambitious routines they're absolutely going to stick with this time. By February, they have a graveyard of abandoned practices that lasted exactly 3 days. The morning meditation died when sitting still with their thoughts felt terrifying. The daily journaling expired when they ran out of profound insights and started writing grocery lists in their gratitude journal. The commitment to drink 8 glasses of water ended when they realized they'd need bathroom breaks every 30 minutes. These failures aren't character flaws. They're proof that good intentions without realistic planning are about as useful as a chocolate teapot. The comedy of developing good work habits becomes apparent when your current strategy is panic productivity fueled by approaching deadlines. You spend weeks procrastinating on important projects, then experience superhuman efficiency in the final hours before something is due. This creates a cycle where you convince yourself you work better under pressure, even though the pressure makes you question every life choice that led to this moment. You tell yourself you'll start earlier next time, but next time arrives and you're somehow in the exact same situation, frantically trying to accomplish 3 weeks of work in 2 hours while surviving on coffee and regret. The myth of maintaining a positive mental attitude becomes hilarious when some days your mental attitude is held together by caffeine and desperate hope that nobody notices you're completely improvising. Motivational speakers make it sound like you can just decide to be positive, and suddenly every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. They clearly haven't experienced technical difficulties during an important presentation, while your laptop makes dying sounds and everyone stares at you expectantly. Your positive mental attitude in that moment consists of not screaming and maintaining the illusion that you have any idea what you're doing. The advice to think before you act sounds reasonable until you realize that most of your best stories start with, "I didn't think this through, but..." These stories usually involve spontaneous decisions that seemed brilliant at the time, but revealed their flaws only after you were fully committed. Like deciding to rearrange your furniture at midnight and discovering you can't actually move your couch without help. Or agreeing to help a friend move without realizing they live on the 3rd floor of a building without an elevator and own 17 bookcases filled with hardcover novels. The gap between thinking you've thought something through and actually thinking it through is vast enough to contain several small disasters. Setting priorities becomes an exercise in futility when everything feels urgent and your to-do list looks like a cry for help written in different colored pens. You start with black ink for the most important tasks, then switch to blue for moderately important ones, then red for urgent items, then green for things you forgot about earlier. Eventually, your list resembles a rainbow of panic, with arrows connecting related tasks and question marks next to items you wrote but can no longer decipher. The color coding system that was supposed to bring order to your chaos has instead created a visual representation of your mental state, which is colorful, but not particularly helpful. The absurdity of trying to consider consequences becomes clear when your brain is convinced that future you is a completely different person who will magically have their life together. Present you makes decisions based on the assumption that future you will have unlimited energy, perfect time management skills, and the ability to handle any situation with grace and competence. This is why you agree to social commitments, 3 weeks away without checking your calendar, assuming future you will somehow have more free time than present you. This is also why you put off important tasks, confident that future you will be more motivated and organized than present you has ever been in recorded history. The gap between knowing what you should do and actually doing it is wide enough to park a small aircraft carrier. You know you should meal prep on Sundays to save time and money during the week. But Sunday arrives and meal prep feels like an insurmountable challenge requiring advanced planning skills and the ability to predict what you'll want to eat 4 days from now. Instead, you order takeout and tell yourself you'll definitely meal prep next Sunday when you're more organized. This pattern repeats until you realize you've been saying, next Sunday. For approximately 6 months, and your kitchen is still primarily decorative. The art of productive procrastination reaches its peak when you clean your entire house to avoid one important task. You suddenly become motivated to organize your closet, deep clean your refrigerator, and alphabetize your book collection, all while the important task sits there waiting like a patient but disappointed parent. You convince yourself that creating a clean environment will help you focus, but really you're just avoiding the thing you don't want to do by doing other things you also don't want to do, but that feel less intimidating. Your house has never been cleaner, but your important task remains untouched. The perfectionism trap keeps you from starting anything because if you can't do it perfectly, why do it at all? This logic sounds reasonable until you realize it means you never start anything because perfection isn't possible right out of the gate. You spend more time researching the perfect way to begin than you would have spent just beginning imperfectly. You watch tutorials, read articles, and create elaborate plans for how you'll execute your perfect habit or project, then never actually start because your plan isn't perfect yet. Meanwhile, people who started imperfectly and adjusted as they went have already finished what you're still planning. The truth about sustainable improvement is that it happens through systems that work with your existing chaos rather than against it. If you're not a morning person, trying to become one will probably result in exhaustion and resentment. If you're naturally disorganized, trying to implement elaborate organizational systems will likely create more work than it eliminates. The key is finding approaches that complement your natural tendencies rather than fighting them. Maybe your productivity peak is at night, or maybe you work better with flexible deadlines than rigid schedules. Or maybe you need accountability partners rather than solo motivation. Real improvement often looks like small adjustments rather than dramatic overhauls. Instead of committing to exercise every day, maybe you commit to moving your body in some way every day, whether that's a walk, stretching, or dancing in your kitchen while cooking dinner. Instead of trying to eliminate all screen time before bed, maybe you just charge your phone in another room. Instead of attempting to meal prep elaborate healthy meals, maybe you just keep healthy snacks easily accessible. These small changes compound over time without requiring you to become a different person. The liberating truth about personal improvement is that it's not about becoming a productivity robot who executes perfect routines with mechanical precision. It's about finding sustainable ways to gradually become more capable of handling your life without making yourself miserable in the process. Everyone's version of improvement looks different because everyone's life, energy levels, and natural tendencies are different. The goal isn't to optimize yourself into submission, but to create systems that make your life easier and more enjoyable while still moving you toward your goals. Of course, once you've figured out how to work with your natural chaos instead of against it, you still have to deal with the challenge of actually presenting yourself to the world like you know what you're doing. Personal empowerment. Creativity and confidence, even when you feel like a fraud. Personal empowerment sounds impressive until you realize it mostly involves convincing yourself you're capable, while your internal monologue provides pessimistic commentary on every decision. This voice sounds like a sports announcer who's given up on your team halfway through the season, offering running commentary with the enthusiasm of someone announcing a particularly boring golf tournament during a thunderstorm. And here she goes again, ordering takeout instead of cooking that chicken that's been sitting in her fridge for 3 days, the voice announces with resigned disappointment. That's her 4th questionable decision this week, folks, and we're only halfway through Tuesday. This internal critic makes projecting confidence nearly impossible when you're constantly receiving negative performance reviews from your own brain. Being creative becomes a challenge when your most innovative thinking involves finding new ways to avoid doing laundry. You've mastered strategic outfit planning to extend time between wash days, discovered that Febreze can work miracles on questionable clothing items, and developed a complex system for determining which clothes are clean enough to wear again based on the sniff test and whether they've touched the floor. This might not be the kind of creativity that wins awards, but it demonstrates problem-solving skills that would impress anyone who's ever lived in a small apartment with a communal laundry room that's always mysteriously out of order. The pressure to think outside the box becomes overwhelming when you're not entirely sure what box you're supposed to be in. People throw around phrases like innovative solutions and disruptive thinking while you're still trying to figure out what the actual problem is. You're supposed to revolutionize your approach to challenges, but first you need to identify what those challenges actually are. Maybe your box is perfectionism, or maybe it's procrastination, or maybe it's the tendency to overthink everything until you've analyzed all the joy out of simple decisions. Without knowing your box, thinking outside it becomes like trying to escape from a room you can't locate. The advice to look for faster, better, easier, cheaper solutions sounds practical until you realize you're still trying to figure out what the problem actually is. You're supposed to optimize and streamline your life, but optimization requires knowing what you're optimizing for. Are you trying to save time, money, energy, or sanity? Are you solving the right problem, or are you just making yourself more efficient at doing unnecessary things? Sometimes the fastest solution is to stop doing something entirely. The better solution is to accept that good enough is actually good enough, and the easiest solution is to ask for help instead of trying to figure everything out yourself. The struggle to challenge yourself to learn and grow becomes complicated when you're already overwhelmed by the things you're supposed to know by now. You're supposed to expand your skill set while still trying to master basic adult competencies, like understanding your health insurance and remembering to schedule annual checkups. The gap between what you think you should know and what you actually know feels like a canyon that keeps getting wider every time you discover another area of ignorance. Learning new things requires admitting you don't know them yet, which can be humbling when you're already questioning your competence in areas you thought you had figured out. Creative thinking often involves elaborate scenarios that will never happen, like planning what you'd do if you won the lottery, or imagining detailed conversations with people you'll never meet. Your brain excels at creating complex solutions to hypothetical problems while struggling to solve the actual problem of where you put your car keys. You can design an entire system for organizing your life that sounds brilliant in theory, but requires you to become a completely different person to implement successfully. This kind of creative thinking is entertaining, but not particularly useful for solving real problems that need practical solutions you can actually execute. The gap between wanting to feel empowered and the reality of your daily experience becomes obvious when you realize you're just really good at faking confidence until someone asks you to explain what you're doing. You've mastered the art of nodding knowingly during conversations about topics you understand approximately 30% of, making thoughtful humming sounds when people explain concepts that completely confuse you, and asking follow-up questions that sound insightful but are actually desperate attempts to figure out what everyone else is talking about. This performance of competence works until someone puts you on the spot and expects you to demonstrate actual knowledge, rather than just the appearance of understanding. Imposter syndrome makes empowerment feel like a dangerous game, where you're constantly one Google search away from being exposed as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. Research shows that around 80% of people experience this feeling at some point, which means most of the people you think have it all figured out are also worried about being exposed as frauds. You fear that someone will ask you to explain your success, define your expertise, or demonstrate your competence in ways that will reveal you're actually just someone who got lucky and learned to fake it convincingly. This fear keeps you from taking credit for your achievements, applying for opportunities you're qualified for, or sharing your knowledge with others who might benefit from it. The performance of confidence becomes exhausting when you're constantly monitoring yourself for signs of inadequacy while trying to project competence. You rehearse conversations in your head, prepare for meetings by researching topics you think might come up, and develop strategies for redirecting conversations away from areas where your knowledge is thin. This preparation helps you function in professional and social situations. But it also reinforces the feeling that your competence is something you have to manufacture, rather than something you naturally possess. The effort required to maintain this performance can be more draining than the actual work you're supposed to be doing. Creativity and confidence intersect in the uncomfortable space where you're supposed to take risks and try new things while also appearing competent and knowledgeable. You're expected to innovate and experiment while maintaining credibility and avoiding mistakes that might undermine your reputation. This creates tension between the messy process of learning and the polished results people expect to see. Real creativity requires making mistakes, trying things that don't work, and admitting when you're wrong. But empowerment often feels like it requires projecting an image of someone who always knows what they're doing. The empowering realization about creativity and confidence is that they're not about having all the answers, but about being comfortable with making it up as you go along. Everyone is improvising to some degree, using their knowledge and experience to navigate situations they've never encountered before. The people who seem most creative and confident are usually just better at embracing uncertainty and treating mistakes as information rather than failures. They've learned to trust their ability to figure things out rather than waiting until they know everything before they start. This approach turns creativity and confidence from performance art into practical skills that you can develop through practice rather than perfect through preparation. But once you've accepted that everyone is essentially improvising, you still have to figure out what you're actually good at versus what you just think you're good at, which requires a level of honest self-assessment that can be surprisingly difficult to achieve. Personal analysis. The brutal truth about your strengths and weaknesses. Personal analysis forces you into the uncomfortable position where discussing your strengths feels like bragging, while admitting your weaknesses feels like handing someone a detailed map of all the ways you're failing at life. You're caught in this impossible balance where acknowledging what you're good at makes you sound arrogant, but being honest about your shortcomings makes you sound like you're auditioning for a self-help intervention. Society has trained us to be modest about our abilities while simultaneously expecting us to be confident and self-aware. This creates a conversational minefield where you're constantly calculating how much competence you can admit to without seeming cocky and how much struggle you can reveal without seeming incompetent. The comedy of identifying your natural gifts becomes apparent when your most obvious talent seems to be discovering increasingly creative ways to avoid doing important tasks. You've elevated procrastination to an art form, developing elaborate systems for organizing your avoidance strategies and finding productive ways to waste time. Maybe your natural gift is researching things you'll never actually do, or creating detailed plans for projects you'll never start, or finding the perfect YouTube video to watch instead of doing literally anything else. These might not be the kinds of talents that look impressive on a resume, but they demonstrate creativity, research skills, and the ability to find alternative approaches to problems, even if the problem you're solving is how to avoid solving other problems. Self-analysis becomes nearly impossible when you're simultaneously your biggest cheerleader and your harshest critic, often within the same hour depending on your caffeine levels and whether you remembered to eat lunch. Morning. You might feel capable of conquering the world and solving complex problems with brilliant insights, while afternoon you questions every decision you've ever made and wonders if you've been fooling everyone about your basic competence. The version of yourself that exists after your third cup of coffee has completely different opinions about your abilities than the version that exists when you're running on 4 hours of sleep and the lingering effects of yesterday's poor choices. This internal inconsistency makes objective self-assessment feel like trying to get an accurate measurement while standing on a boat during a storm. Being truthful about where you stand becomes challenging when where you stand feels like quicksand, and you're genuinely unsure whether you're sinking or just tired from trying to maintain your position. Some days you feel like you're making progress, developing new skills, and moving closer to your goals. Other days you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water, struggling with basic tasks that should be routine by now. The difficulty lies in determining whether this feeling of instability is temporary exhaustion or a sign that you're actually losing ground. You're supposed to assess your current position honestly, but your current position seems to change depending on external factors like workload, sleep quality, and whether Mercury is in retrograde. Evaluating progress becomes an exercise in futility when your goals keep evolving and your definition of success transforms weekly based on whatever podcast you listened to or article you read most recently. Last month, you were focused on productivity and efficiency. This month, you're prioritizing work-life balance and mindfulness, and next month, you'll probably be convinced that the secret to happiness lies in minimalism or learning a new language. Your progress toward constantly changing targets is impossible to measure accurately because the targets won't stay still long enough for you to determine whether you're getting closer or further away. This moving goalpost situation makes self-assessment feel like trying to grade your own performance in a game where the rules keep changing. The absurdity of attempting objective self-analysis becomes clear when you realize you can't even decide what to have for lunch without experiencing a minor existential crisis about your food choices and what they say about you as a person. You'll spend 15 minutes analyzing the nutritional, financial, and social implications of various lunch options, then inevitably choose something that satisfies none of your criteria, because decision fatigue has overwhelmed your ability to think rationally. If you can't make simple daily choices without overthinking them, how can you possibly assess complex aspects of your personality, skills, and life direction with any degree of accuracy? The same brain that struggles with basic decisions is somehow supposed to provide reliable insights about your strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. The gap between how you perceive yourself and how others see you typically involves you thinking you're terrible at things you're actually decent at, while remaining completely oblivious to your actual blind spots. You'll spend hours worrying about a presentation you think went poorly, while everyone else thought it was informative and well delivered. Meanwhile, you're completely unaware that you interrupt people constantly, or that your tendency to overthink problems actually slows down team productivity. This perceptual disconnect means your self-assessment is based on incomplete and often inaccurate information about your actual performance and impact. You're trying to analyze yourself using a distorted mirror that magnifies your perceived flaws while making your actual strengths nearly invisible. The comparison trap makes personal analysis feel like a contact sport, where you're constantly measuring yourself against people who seem to have mastered life while you're still Googling basic adult skills. Social media provides an endless stream of people who appear to have figured out career success, relationship happiness, financial security, and personal fulfillment simultaneously. Your analysis of your own progress inevitably includes comparisons to these carefully curated highlight reels, making your behind-the-scenes reality look particularly chaotic and inadequate. You're comparing your rough draft to everyone else's final published version, then wondering why you feel like you're falling behind in areas where you're actually making normal human progress.